The reason Prison Break is considered an eternal classic in American television history is not only because of its compact plot and tense storyline that makes it impossible to stop watching after just one episode. It is also because the difficulties Michael encounters are interlocked like gears, where a single misstep could lead to the complete failure of the escape plan. This time, Michael faces a challenge in the form of a new cellmate, Haywire. Transferred from the psychiatric ward, Haywire possesses superior reasoning abilities, high intelligence, and an eidetic memory, but due to brain damage, he does not need to sleep at night. This means Michael cannot find an opportunity to dig a hole in their cell. The only solution is to bring Haywire on board. Michael tentatively asks Haywire if he has ever thought about leaving and what he would like to do outside. However, Haywire tells him that being mentally ill, it doesn't matter where he goes, he would still end up in a psychiatric hospital. This statement deeply discourages Michael. Despite being in a deadlock, Michael must find a way to escape because Lincoln has less than a month before his execution. QSO represents copper sulfate, and PL represents phosphoric acid. Michael bribes a fellow inmate to steal a bottle of wall brick cleaner from the prison storeroom. During yard time, Michael obtains a type of chemical weed killer from John. Their chemical components are phosphoric acid and copper sulfate, respectively. He squeezes out Haywire's and his own toothpaste and fills the tubes with the two chemical agents. Then, he goes to Sarah's infirmary and pours the chemical agents down the drain. The combination of these chemicals produces a highly corrosive liquid, preparing the ground for the escape. However, this creates a small problem. Haywire keeps asking Michael where his toothpaste has gone. Michael can only respond that he doesn't know because Haywire keeps misplacing his things. Shocked, Haywire says, "Are you treating me like I'm stupid? My things are always neatly arranged. Besides, in such a tiny place, where could I possibly misplace it?" It seems Haywire is not truly foolish. Michael constantly seeks opportunities to evade Haywire's surveillance. Yet, Haywire, behaving almost obsessively, always appears behind Michael unexpectedly. Moreover, Haywire seems to have discovered the secret hidden in Michael's tattoos.
Your tattoo, it's a pattern.
More alarmingly, Haywire, not sleeping in the middle of the night, starts to examine Michael's tattoos by tearing open his shirt.
The tattoos, there's a maze. Get away from me.
Completely captivated by Michael's tattoos, Haywire becomes obsessed and starts drawing Michael's tattoos in his notebook during yard time. Michael is driven to the brink of insanity by Haywire. If he does not do something, the escape plan will inevitably be sabotaged by Haywire. At this moment, Sucre rushes to Michael, saying he has changed his mind and wants to escape with Michael.
I'm back in. Too late.
I'll do anything you need. You see these hands? The digging machine. You want to go to China? I'll get you to China, fish. I'll dig like a psychotic rodent if I have to. Fish, I gotta be back in.
A few days earlier, Sucre's cousin visited him in prison, revealing that Sucre's girlfriend, Mary Cruz, had started a relationship with him and they were about to get married. This infuriates Sucre, who immediately calls Mary Cruz for confirmation. Mary Cruz says she cannot wait any longer since she is almost 30 years old, and waiting for Sucre to be released after 16 months is too late. Hearing this, the love-struck Sucre cannot wait another moment, even if it means risking escape to win back his love. Michael is pleased to see Sucre's change of heart. Now, the urgent task is to get rid of Haywire. Upon returning to their cell, Michael is shocked to find that Haywire has managed to piece together the tattoos from memory. Realizing the secret will soon be exposed, Michael does not hesitate to hit his head against the bars. Once not enough, then twice. When Haywire sees the blood on Michael's forehead, he immediately understands what has happened. Michael calls the guards, framing Haywire as having a violent tendency. Finally got this guy out of here.
He's taking us all out!
Not long after, Sucre moves back unexcitedly. Now, they must focus on the task at hand. Sucre pulled out a mirror and saw that there were no guards around, so Michael removed the screws from the basin and prepared to dig a hole. Sucre, puzzled, asks how burning through the infirmary's pipes relates to their current location. Michael explains that breaking through this wall is just the beginning of the escape. There are many rooms between here and the prison wall, and the infirmary is the building closest to the wall, making it an essential exit point for the escape. They must create a path from here to the infirmary. Michael takes out a piece of paper to test the depth of the ash seam, which is nearly enough. He asks Sucre to make some noise, and Sucre, understanding immediately, begins his performance. It didn't take long for all of Sucre's family to be greeted by the inmates. Amidst the chaos of curses, Michael kicks the wall hard, finally creating a large hole big enough for a person to crawl through. The arrival of the guards quiets the prison, and Michael successfully crawls out of the cell. But this is only the first step of the escape plan. Michael still needs time to explore the escape route. However, the next day, after yard time, Michael returns to his cell only to find Pope waiting for him, a bad omen looming over him. Michael also notices the leaking screw hole. Fortunately, Pope does not discover anything unusual, but he delivers worse news to Michael. Pope says he received orders from above to transfer Michael to another prison, and it will be carried out tomorrow. It feels like the sky is falling for Michael, who pleads desperately with Pope not to do so, but Pope is unmoved, as he has no choice.
I'm not the one behind the transfer. You're up against much bigger fish than me.
At this point, it's necessary to mention a powerful force outside the prison. As Lincoln said, the vice president's brother was not killed by Lincoln, he was just a scapegoat. A mysterious organization deliberately forged the crime scene surveillance footage and killed anyone who could testify. In the process of eliminating obstacles, they accidentally discovered Lincoln has a brother named Michael, who was in the same prison for a robbery charge. Guessing what Michael intends to do, they immediately call a woman. Clearly, this woman is the mastermind behind the scenes. She orders her subordinates to find Pope and threatens him with the death of his illegitimate son, forcing him to transfer Michael to another prison. Although Pope owes Michael, his family is his priority, so he has to comply. But Michael does not give up. He finds Charles. The experienced Charles says it's quite easy. You just need to write an application claiming some part of your body is uncomfortable. The rejection of the application takes at least a month's process, and during this month, no one has the authority to touch you. Michael immediately does so, and Pope has to admit he has learned a lot here. Since the process is legitimate and regulation compliant, Pope smiles and tacitly agrees. Michael restarts the escape plan. He has Sucre pretend to hang clothes as a cover while he searches for the path to the infirmary through the structural gaps in the cell. But Michael finds a wall blocking the way. Moreover, with the roll calls happening periodically, he has no time to dig through this wall. Sucre thinks of a method. Only when the cell block is on lockdown do the guards leave, and there's no roll call, giving them enough time to dig through the wall. The question is, how can they incite the prisoners to cause enough trouble to initiate a lockdown? To create chaos for the escape, Michael crawls into a pre-dug hole in the cell and then makes his way through the pipes to the air conditioning room. Not only does he turn off the air conditioning, but he also turns on the heat. In the scorching summer, the prisoners cannot stand the sauna-like conditions of their cells. Led by Teabag, the prisoners start a riot, declaring they won't go back without cool air. The prisoners join in the uproar. The guards, seeing the enraged crowd, announce they will put them all in solitary confinement while fearfully retreating from the cell block. However, in their panic, the guards forget to lock the prisoners in their cells. Captain Bellick tries to intimidate the scene but is mocked by Teabag, who says only those who fail to become policemen end up as prison guards. Bellick retorts by exposing Teabag's scars.
I read your psych records about how your daddy raped his mongoloid sister, and then 9 months later, little Teddy pops out.
Unable to bear the insult, Teabag leads the prisoners in violently shaking the metal doors. Seeing the security doors starting to give way, Bellick quickly leaves with the guards. Soon, the first prison gate is breached. Teabag finds a set of keys in the control room, meaning all the prisoners inside can move freely. They search everywhere inside for a way out. Bellick, knowing the situation was dire, wanted to charge in and take them down, but with the prison full of desperados, how many could his bullets actually kill? Left with no choice, Bellick reports to his superiors and requests backup. The infirmary is in a separate area from the cell blocks. Hearing that freedom has been achieved on the other side, the prisoners being treated in the infirmary, happy and dancing, also start a riot. They kill the guards and attempt to assault Sarah. Seeing the situation turning dire, Sarah quickly hides in a room. She blocks the door with a table and tries to call for help, but the phone lines have already been cut by the prisoners. A man desperately bangs on the door, and another reaches his hand in, only to be knocked out by Sarah with a tranquilizer.
That bitch stuck me!
The news of the riot at Fox River State Penitentiary not only reaches the media but also Governor Frank, who is Sarah's father. He urgently sends a SWAT team to the prison. On the other side, Michael and Sucre, taking advantage of the prison riot, are diligently working in the structural gaps to break through the wall. Would you believe that a small egg beater can bring down a 50-centimeter thick concrete wall? Let's see how Michael accomplishes this. He takes out a lamp and places it 2 meters from the wall, then makes a simple lampshade out of aluminum foil to focus the light. Next, he sticks a piece of paper with a devil's pattern on the lampshade. In the next second, the devil's pattern appears on the load-bearing wall. Sucre doesn't understand what Michael is doing and how it's related to breaking through the wall to escape. Michael calmly explains, "We just need to drill a few small holes at the top. This is the famous Hooke's law. Simply put, when we try to break an object, it usually breaks in a straight line. Now, we just need to drill holes at several key points, which will compromise the wall's load-bearing capacity." Not understanding but no longer questioning, Sucre, somewhat skeptically, picks up the egg beater to start drilling. They are trying to create a path from the cell to the infirmary in preparation for the escape, but they could never have anticipated an accident that would completely disrupt their plans. Due to the prison riot, Teabag captures a guard and decides to take this opportunity to vent his frustrations. Under Teabag's violent beating, the guard crawls away to hide, but Teabag catches him, Bob, and throws him hard, causing him to crash into the sink in Michael's room. This leaves Teabag completely stunned. No wonder Michael has been acting so sneaky. He's been planning an escape, and this scene is witnessed by Bob. Just as Teabag is about to call for other guards, John covers his mouth and stops him. Hearing the noise, Michael also crawls out from a hole.
Yeah, we have a problem.
Now, the problem arises. Teabag is serving a life sentence and could potentially be convinced to join their cause. But what about Bob, the guard?
We gotta kill him.
The cops are right outside.
And they'll stay outside.
See, Bob here knows about our secret. He knows about our escape. So it's all of our concern now, isn't it?
Meanwhile, several prisoners are furiously smashing the bulletproof glass of the infirmary. Decades of prison life have made them covet Sarah. Seeing the door about to be broken down, Sarah picks up a piece of glass, ready to fight to the death. Michael sees this scene from the prison's control room. After instructing that Bob must not be harmed, he quickly crawls through the duct to save Sarah, while John and Sucre take advantage of the riot to return and continue drilling through the wall. To prevent Teabag from harming Bob, John assigns someone to watch him, as Bob is the only bargaining chip that prevents the SWAT team from storming in. Soon after, Michael finally reaches Sarah's room. They crawl through the ventilation duct and find a safe spot to climb down. Just as Michael is about to get Sarah out of the prison, unexpectedly, a red dot appears on them. If Sarah moves even a step, Michael is undoubtedly dead, and if Michael doesn't leave, he will eventually be shot in the head. At the critical moment of the standoff, some prisoners rush in.
Go!
Michael, lying on the ground, successfully dodges a strike, and the other prisoners scatter. Michael takes the opportunity to escape back to the cell block. Seeing his daughter Sarah safe, Frank no longer has any reservations, although there is still a guard inside. Frank doesn't care. He immediately orders a storming of the prison. Meanwhile, Sucre and the others have drilled all the small holes according to Michael's instructions. Now it's time to see if Hooke's law holds true. They return to the cell block to tell Michael this exhilarating news, but Teabag is determined to kill Bob because he is serving a life sentence and can never be paroled. So, the hole is his only hope of escaping. Despite the others' repeated attempts to dissuade and warn Teabag, he still takes advantage of the chaos to stab Bob to death. This is considered the most inhumane death penalty tool in the world, and Lincoln is about to face this punishment. 6 or 7 people strap Lincoln into the electric chair, securing his limbs and neck with belts, pour cold water on him to enhance conductivity, and place a metal helmet on his head. Typically, when a 50,000-volt current runs through his body, his fingers and toes severely bend, and his eyeballs sometimes burst out, sticking to his cheeks. The skin in contact with the electrodes is burnt to a crisp, even smoking, which is why a black cloth is used to cover the face. Luckily, this is just a dream for Lincoln, but he is scheduled to face this execution in 17 days. Despite being innocent and framed, to save his brother, Michael ruined his career by going to prison and trying to escape with him. After 3 weeks, he finally breaks through the structural gaps and drainage pipes, allowing direct access from his cell to the infirmary. However, since Lincoln is a high-security prisoner and isolated, Michael can't get to his cell directly. Michael has studied the prison blueprints, where the steam and drainage pipes intersect under a storage room. If they can make a hole in the storage room, Michael and other members can meet in the infirmary. However, John reminds Michael that area is off-limits, never assigned for work unless there's a fire needing repair. They plan to burn the area with flammable materials, but as they prepare to open the door, they're greeted by the dark barrel of a gun. The area had been turned into a guard's restroom, putting their escape plan in a deadlock. When they are at a loss, they discover Charles can freely enter the area. Lincoln explains that Charles has a 32-year clean record, so the guards trust him.
Which means we've got to get him on board.
Forget it. The guy's a Boy Scout.
But Michael decided to give it a try anyway. No matter how much Michael coaxed or pleaded, Charles steadfastly refused to admit he had hidden $5 million, nor would he join Michael in the escape, let alone help him with anything illegal. However, just as Charles returned to his cell, Bellick found him. It turned out that Bob, who was killed by Teabag during the riot, had his body fall right at Charles's cell door. Bellick wanted to get some clues from him, but Charles knew well the rules of this place. Whoever snitched would be despised by everyone. No matter how mournfully Bellick begged, Charles politely refused him. Unexpectedly, not having obtained any clues, Bellick immediately changed his tone, and before leaving, he did not forget to tease Charles's cat. However, the next day when Charles returned from the yard, he was shocked to find the cat motionless on the bed, its body already stiff. Charles was in immense pain. This cat was his only emotional support in prison. It was obvious to anyone that Bellick was the murderer of the cat. For the first time, Charles showed a fierce look in his eyes. He went to the guard's restroom and placed a coffee pot coated with rubber adhesive on the power source. Then Charles opened Bellick's locker and pulled out a Lucky Strike cigarette. Looking at the ugly face on the wall, Charles finally made up his mind and lit the lighter. Soon, thick smoke billowed out of the restroom. Happiness came so unexpectedly, leaving Michael and the others completely dumbfounded. Just then, Charles walked past Michael, but Charles made it clear that he did not do it for them, nor did he plan to join their escape team. After the fire was extinguished, investigators found a cigarette butt at the scene.
Bellick,